36 Melbourne Terrafly runway heading runway 5. Clear for takeoff.
From Psychic Sundays to ET Contact and everything in between, this is Spaced Out Sunday's Cosmic Passport with host Elizabeth Anglin.
Check it. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Having great show, guys. Smoke now.
You can connect with Elizabeth on Skype at 505-908-9558 and Spirit for Peace. Follow Liz on Twitter at Elizabeth Anglin and hashtag SpacedOutRadio. And you can connect with us on the web at spacedoutradio.com.
I feel the need for speed. You feel it over and over again. We take you higher and higher and higher. You feel it over and over again.
Chillers, we're up now. Smoke on now.
This is the love we live again.
Chillers, ready to go now. Contact. Easing up. Chillers, we're up now. We're up now. One left.
Don't look much like Los Angeles to me. I knew I should have taken that left turn at Albuquerque.
Now taking you on a spiritual journey from the desert of New Mexico this Sunday night, here's Spaced Out Sunday's Cosmic Passport with Elizabeth Anglin.
Chillers, ready to check the prize. Contact. Chillers, turn now. Smoke on now. Chillers, ready to get the great prize. Spin now. Chillers, turn now. Chillers, ready now. Contact. Chillers.
6 Norman Terra,
Okay.
fly runway heading
Is
runway
anybody
5.
hearing
Clear for
anything?
takeoff.
No. Anybody hearing the show? No. I'll give you 30 seconds to answer my question. This is Elizabeth Anglin coming to you from Cosmic Passport. Yes, we're going to talk about Mercury retrograde and the... Yeah. Okay, people can hear. Okay, Elizabeth Anglin. Okay, we're going to go back to the opening announcements and talk a little bit about Mercury retrograde and why all of a sudden my computer set itself to do something very weird because it got knocked across the room. It's Mercury retrograde. I don't have a belief system. I think it's all real. Anyway, good evening and welcome to Spaced Out Radio's Cosmic Passport. I'm your host, Elizabeth Anglin, coming to you from the Spaced Out Radio Cosmic Cruisemobile. We are coming to you live from the stormy, windy, and wonderful desert Southwest, specifically the art colony hippie commune of Madrid, New Mexico. You can call it Madrid if you want, but it's Madrid, New Mexico, as we do every Sunday here on spacedoutradio.com. For all of you listening in from around North America and the world, I want to welcome everyone listening on WQEE 99 Rock the Key in Noonan, Georgia, at spacedoutradio.com on Spreaker, on the United Public Radio Network, Renegade Talk Radio, the High Plains Talk Radio Network, and on the Fringe.fm. We also want to thank our guitar god Ron "Bumblefoot" THAL, formerly of Guns N' Roses, currently of Art of Anarchy. He creates the music that makes Spaced Out Radio Weekend Rock, the official spacedoutradio.com music. If you are a social media person, check us out on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Give our Facebook page a like at Spaced Out Radio Show. On Facebook, you can follow me at Cosmic Passport with Elizabeth Anglin. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio. Tune us in on TuneIn. Download our shows from iTunes. We are also on RadioGuide.fm, TalkStream Live, and on Stitcher. So many places. And of course our website where you can listen to the shows and 24 hours after they air on spacedoutradio.com. Now, that being said, I have to wonder why my muted tabs are making noise. I just don't understand. Alright. For the rest of y'all, if you want to take part in the show, you'll have to sign into one of our chat rooms on Spreaker or on the chat room on Facebook at the SOR Space Travelers Club. If you head to our website, spacedoutradio.com, for just $5 a month, you can become an SOR Space Traveler. Do it. It's fun. Please check out our news section, The Encounter, that deals with everything paranormal, courtesy of our editor, Eric Marcum. And you can check out Dave Scott's latest blog there as well. And if you have had a paranormal experience of any ilk that you cannot explain or don't understand, fill out an SOR Sightlines report. Our researchers are ready to help you find out what's going on. And again, big thanks to everyone listening in on WQEE 99 Rock the Key, to the Spaced Out Radio family way down in Noonan, Georgia. Everybody at Renegade Talk Radio out of Las Vegas. We are live in Sin City, and the United Public Radio Network 107.7 FM in New Orleans, and their listeners from over 160 countries around the world. Thank you so much for being here with us tonight. We appreciate it so much. So tonight has been interesting for me in that it is a big supermoon night. It is the supermoon, I believe, in Gemini. We're going to talk about that with our guest, Paul Simons, who, among other things, is a medium, and a lot of you know him from doing mediumship on the show. But you also may not understand that Paul has been a very fine astrologer for 40 years. I'm not going to tell you how old he is, just that he sounds ancient when we think about it that way. And Paul is going to talk about Mercury retrograde. Eric's going to, if all goes well and things keep playing, Eric's going to talk to him about a scientist's opinion of Mercury retrograde and how, it seems like pseudoscience. And I'm going to talk about how every freaking time it's Mercury retrograde, something like what happened tonight will happen, which is just before the show started, just before I had to get Paul on the air a little bit earlier, Wyatt took out the entire studio table. He took out the computer. He basically took out the table, so everything went flying. Both computers, microphone, everything. Not Wyatt in the chat room. I don't think Wyatt in the chat room would do that. Wyatt Anglin, my dear dog, my dear large, sniffy, food-oriented trace vapor nanoparticle finding dog was finding something somehow near the table that he was interested in, and completely oblivious to the legs of the table, and all 100 pounds of him took out the probably 40-pound table. So, and in that, I had to reset everything up, and somehow the show did not start because the computer reset itself to not be on the right settings. So, you know, I guess if you throw a computer across the room and in a big hump of a table, you end up, because what he did is he sort of dragged it and then threw it because he's a really big dog. You end up with computers that do things to get you back. I'm sorry, computer. I didn't know that you really were conscious yet. And we're also going to talk tonight after Mercury retrograde about our computers and whether or not they're going to get conscious, and whether or not they have artificial intelligence, or whether or not we just apply that to them because we're anthropomorphizing things because we as human beings like to do that. However, with both things tonight that happened with the dog taking the studio table and tipping it, and the computer resetting itself in the process, I think it was vengeance. I don't know. It's a human emotion. It could be a computer emotion. It could be, you know. Computers could become like humans. We're going to talk about that after we visit with Paul for a bit. So, without further ado, Paul Simons, thanks for being here. How are you tonight?
Fine, Elizabeth. It's good to be back. I wanted to start off by talking about the supermoon. We have a full moon in Gemini tonight, and it's closer to the Earth than usual. That's why it's called the supermoon, and it's about 7% larger if you look at it in the sky, and it creates a more intense, more emotional, more powerful effect on people. So a lot of people are feeling an intense emotional charge, or things that are bothering them or on their mind or coming to the surface, and it's very strong. This is the only supermoon in 2017, and interestingly, our president, Donald Trump, is a Gemini, and this will create a lot of pressure or spontaneous behavior from him, and he may, with the Mercury retrograde, say things without having complete information and have to add, update or retract or go back and explain things. So there's going to be a lot of stuff going on, I believe, with the president's Twitter account and just comments because of the supermoon and also the Mercury retrograde. Mercury retrograde isn't linear, so sometimes people say things without all the information, or they don't have everything in front of them, or they say things that maybe they should wait a while before they talk about, and this could all impact many different areas of government, because our president likes to just speak his mind, and with Mercury retrograde, you don't always have all the information, so there could be disclosures that need to be retracted or need to be updated, or additional information filled in. As far as Mercury retrograde coming on the supermoon, what it's doing is things are going like offline. What it does is Mercury retrograde, there's 3 passes of a planet at the same degree, and normally with Mercury it only crosses a degree in the sky once, and it keeps going on a very linear basis. So when it's retrograde, you go back, and then you go direct and go forward again. So it's almost like you think the same things, you process the same information 3 times, and you get new solutions, new ideas, or think outside the box. So there's going to be a lot of people looking at what isn't working, what they need to do, what they didn't finish in terms of work or their personal life or different areas. and they're going to come up with new ways to approach their business, to approach their life, new solutions. And it's nonlinear. It does have a bad reputation for people being late, missing appointments, getting lost if they're driving somewhere, or just having problems with transportation, planes being canceled, problems with just getting places. And it's not really a bad thing, Mercury retrograde. It forces people to come up with new solutions to the things that don't work. It forces people to clean up the loose ends that they have, and it's really actually sort of like a housekeeping effect, sort of like spring cleaning. It's actually a good thing, but it's extra work. And we have this Mercury retrograde during the holiday season, so there may be a lot of things going on that seem to be chaotic because people are offline. They're not really going in a linear way, but they're accomplishing many things. It's just work in a linear fashion. So a lot of people would just make a snap decision that things are a mess, that people didn't show up on time, they were late for dinner, they were late for a meeting, their car broke down, they got lost, stuff like that. And they're actually doing other things. It's not all bad. It just gets a bad rap.
So it's sort of like a speed bump in your daily routine, something that slows you up a minute and you have to stop and think.
Yes, it also causes electronics and telecommunications, computers, and digital equipment to seize up or break down or go offline or get really fritzy, and it's hard to explain in a scientific way. I know you're a scientist, and I'd like to be able to explain it in a scientific way myself, but because Mercury goes retrograde and then it goes direct, there's 3 passes, and all the linear stuff goes out the window, and it somehow affects communications, and people even don't hear things correctly. A lot of times what I have to do when I'm talking to people is say, okay, can you repeat back to me what I just told you? I just want to make sure I explained it right, and then listen to what they say, and they sometimes didn't hear what I said. So you have to make sure that people actually understand things, that if you give someone instructions, maybe have them repeat back to you the instructions to make sure it registered, because a lot of times people aren't tracking everything in a linear way because they're kind of offline. That's been my experience anyway.
Well, even as a scientist, I have to admit today, before I even knew because I don't follow this kind of thing, I've had a series of computer glitches, and I didn't know anything about Mercury in retrograde. So, okay, I might be a skeptical scientist, but I'm leaning toward believing in it.
Well, it's hard to be able to give you any concrete thing to hang my hat on about this, because it's not logical, but it's sort of like disruptions. It would sort of be like solar flares or geomagnetic storms or something affect satellites. It's not maybe logical, but we know when it happens, we have problems. It's sort of like that. And that's been my experience. It's not necessarily going to mean that if you have 15 meetings this week scheduled, that everyone's going to get screwed up. You may just have one where a person thought it was next week, or they didn't put it down the right point in their calendar book, and everything else goes fine. But there's disruptions typically.
We have a question from the Spreaker chat room from Wyatt, and he says he's new to this stuff, so bear with him. He wants to know what retrograde means in this case.
Well, I have that diagram that I found online, and I sent to you, Elizabeth. Could you post that and give credit to the person that actually originally drew it, because that shows the retrograde cycle. The planets go around the sun, and we're on the Earth, and we go around the sun. But when we're looking at other planets, there are points when they're going around the sun where it looks like they're going towards us, and when they're going away from us. And when they're going away from us, it's retrograde.
So
because
it appears that they're going.
They're not.
It appears that they're going backwards. Okay.
Yes, for a short period of time, and Mercury is closer to the sun than us, so it's a very fast orbit, and it happens about 2 or 3 times a year that there's a 21 or 22 day retrograde period, and that's the little diagram shows you how it works. And if you can post that, I don't think we'd be causing any problems with the copyright as long as we say it was from, this is an example, and give credit to the person who drew the drawing.
I think you sent it as an attachment, which kind of makes it a little bit of an issue. Do you know if there's a link to that somewhere? Because we can easily post a link.
It's in an article that was written, I think, in September about another retrograde, and I just thought it was a very good example of what the retrograde cycle looked like. So I had that diagram I had taken and made it into a file just to look at it and explain it to people.
Okay. Hey, Eric, if you have that, see if you can find that link, because I just am finding the attachment, and I did see it as the picture, but I'm not finding it. So we'll try to get that to you so you can see what the path of retrograde looks like and why it says, okay, cool, that helps. And
is that the spreadsheet?
Yeah. Did you? Well, it's a
spreadsheet. No, it's the spreadsheet's the second email. I sent you one earlier with the link, Elizabeth.
Oh, there it is. Okay. Here I see.
All right.
But that is not coming up as a link either. So if it does.
No, that's a little diagram. It's not a link.
So anyway, we don't have that, but Trippin' Fool in the Spreaker chat room has a nice point to add. The definition of retrograde is having or being motion in a direction contrary to that of the general motion of similar bodies, and especially east to west among the stars. Saturn retrograde is for another week. Having or being a direction of rotation or revolution that is clockwise or viewed from the north pole of the sky or planet. Does that sound right to you, Paul?
Well, with the solar system, everything revolves around the sun. So we're revolving around the sun, and other planets are too, but they appear to be going backwards in parts of the revolution, and that's when they are retrograde. It's not really from the North Pole or the South Pole. It's from Earth in general.
Okay, very interesting. So now, being that, okay, you kind of, I think life has, since we pointed it out to Eric, and he had such a time with his computer's crashing and losing data today, and my computers crashed because the dog sent them flying, so they actually crashed. They went kaboom. You kind of convinced me that this has something, it does affect computers. It does. I've found in my business that this will be the time when I can't get people on the phone, or they can't get me on the phone for readings. So that's always an interesting thing, because sometimes people are a little superstitious, so they're like, oh, my guides don't want me to read with you. And it's like, no, it's Mercury retrograde. It's just going to take longer to connect.
Well, sometimes it's good to talk to people during Mercury retrograde because they're coming out with new ideas or thinking outside the box, and they're not sure, this is a weird idea, what do you think of it? And you can actually sometimes make a lot of headway with people because they're open-minded or they've got some new thinking.
Yeah, I found that this is a great time if you're looking to get a reading or you're looking to do any healing, any long-standing emotional healing. Say, hey, me and Mom didn't have a great relationship, or me and Dad didn't have a great relationship, and I'm getting a mirror of that in this life with a partner or people at work or whatever it may be, or something from your past. Things from the past do tend to come up. And Paul, given this period of time, given that Mercury can be such a healer and it's coming on a supermoon, what would you tell people to expect to see and feel at this time?
Well, I wanted to just say Mercury retrograde is about 21 or 22 days. It can vary, but that's what it generally is. You have the effect of a planet or like Mercury at 23 degrees Sagittarius, the 23rd of November, the 11th of December, the 5th of January. That's more than 22 days because you have the first pass before the retrograde, one pass during the retrograde, and one pass after Mercury's going direct. So this is more like a 5 or 6 week cycle to get the new thinking or to finish the process. So we're not really going to be finished with this Mercury retrograde until about the 10th of January or 11th of January, and it really started around Thanksgiving or a little bit after Thanksgiving. So it's a cycle where you go offline and you focus on coming up with solutions or looking at other options that you maybe missed, and then implementing them. But it doesn't happen in like one day. It's like something that you have to kind of mull on or chew on or think about, and it's sort of a little bit drawn out process. So
it is longer. I have two people in the chat room who are talking about things we talked about talking about. One is, I won't call you out because you didn't ask a question, but I'm going to say he agreed with someone else about regarding always being in retrograde. Like he feels he's always in retrograde. And you said something about you were born in retrograde, or you were in your personal chart, Mercury was retrograde for a long period of time, and then
I was born with Mercury direct, but when I was an adult and I was working, it went by progression retrograde for 22 years, because in progressions 1 year is a day in the travel of planets. So because it's a 22 day cycle, it was 22 years that it was retrograde by progression. And during that time, I was designing and building chain restaurants throughout Mexico and the United States, and I could go into a building that was closed, that had nothing, and visualize what it was going to look like and draw it and have contractors build the building or modify it to what it needed to be, and then open it up. And I could move around in time and space because it wasn't really a linear job. It was like you had to jump around to like see what it was going to look like and do demolition plans and construction plans and design furniture and kitchens and stuff like that. So architects, designers, clothes designers, people that do creative work, painters, a lot of them they have Mercury retrograde in their birth chart or by progression, and they get great ideas that normally most people wouldn't get. And that's what makes their masterpieces or their really good work. that they're able to think outside the box and see things other people don't see.
Oh, wow.
Hey, Paul, I got a question. Has anybody that's adept at astrology ever done a Nikola Tesla?
They do
like
have
take his do his thing and just see like if what made him the way he was.
I haven't looked at his chart specifically, but I'm sure because he's so famous and so well known, they've got his chart. They have like every famous person. The charts are available online, so it is possible to look at it.
Yeah, if anybody who is out there wants to do a search on Nikola Tesla's chart, and if they get the chart, would you be able to see if they can post? Well, you're not looking at the chat room, so you wouldn't be able to see. But that may be a good show for at some point to do Nikola Tesla's chart and see what we get out of that.
Well, we could do that, but what would be good to do would be to put the chart like on the Facebook page and have like the full chart wheel and all the aspects of the chart or some information on it and then discuss it. We could do that, but it would probably be good to set that up before the show. Do it on another show.
Yeah, I could get that. Hey, it's talk radio. A lot of people are listening on the radio, but we'll do our best to do that at another time. Nikola Tesla. Anybody else you can think of, Eric? Come to mind?
Oh, it'd just be like take. Okay, let's take famous rivalries. Do Nikola Tesla, Thomas Edison.
Mm-hmm.
Say Joe Louis, Max Baer. You know, just take some of these historical, say Wellington and Napoleon, and just see how they matched up astrologically as well as historically.
Oh, really, really interesting.
I just looked up Nikola Tesla's astrology chart, and funny that we find this. Mercury was retrograde.
I had a suspicion. When you were talking about being creative and seeing things out of this image of, Tesla said the alternating current generator motor popped into his head, fully designed. And that's what made me, when you were talking about how you'd see how things were going to be laid out in these empty buildings, that image immediately popped into my head. That's what made me think about that.
Well, one thing about it that's not that easy is that you have ideas or things that you see, but nobody else can see it or understand it, and they think you're crazy or they don't know what you're talking about. So it's kind of a lonely road to hoe when you've got Mercury retrograde, because a lot of times you feel like you've got something to do, but nobody else understands what you're talking about. It's kind of strange.
Well, that's my that's my everyday life.
He does.
It's okay.
Yeah, Eric is wonderful because you start to say something to him and then he starts thinking about it and then he comes up with something that seems completely out of left field, but once you hear it, it makes perfect sense. And it's like, how did he get from what I just said to where he is now? So Eric, we have to look at yours and see if you're progressed retrograde or were born under retrograde. Yes. And your
May
thing
4th,
with
1963.
Yeah.
Do you have the time of birth during the day? The reason you would want the time is the moon moves 12 degrees in the day, so it can be in a different place.
I do not know if I asked my mom once and she didn't remember.
Okay, you said
we know the day, but not the May 4th, 1963. I think it was during the day.
Doing it really. Okay, I'm going to use 12 noon. Do you have the city and state, or where you were born?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Delaware County, Indiana, Muncie, the city of Muncie, and Ball Memorial Hospital.
Muncie in
Muncie,
Indiana. Mm-hmm. Okay, just 1 second, and I'll have the chart. Okay, the chart's here. You have some really strong oppositions, but you've got several, and you're a very driven person that doesn't take no for an answer, and you'll stand up for your principles or what you believe in, and it will sometimes get you into real big disagreements with people, but you don't necessarily back down. If you believe something or you've got your facts, the facts are the facts, and you've probably had some moments where you didn't back down, and it may have caused some heartache at the time. But you're very strong, have strong convictions. And you should work by yourself. You should work by yourself, because people think you're a little bit tough, or they don't sometimes like that you're just very sure-footed, and they would like you to be more flexible. But you kind of see things black and white, and they don't. Some people wish you'd cut them more slack, but that's not how you work. It is what it is, and that's it. You're kind of black and white, and people that want someone to cut them more slack don't like black and white people.
True.
So you're better.
Kind of summed up. A common vernacular would be "cut your nose off to spite your face" type of thing.
Well, you should be like working as a consultant or as the expert, and not under a lot of people, because if someone doesn't agree with you, it would be really painful or hard, and you might even resign because you get frustrated. So it's better that you're like running your own thing.
Would be nice. It would be nice.
This does not sound familiar at all. I'm not recognizing talking about this. No, we never talked about this. Yes, we have.
Okay, well, sorry. I'm just reading the chart. But no, you're just a very motivated, ambitious, but sure-footed fellow, and it is what it is.
Well,
she's being facetious.
I'm
I think you hit it pretty well. Yeah, we spent a long time traveling to a paranormal conference together, and it's funny because the only things Eric said about his work that he didn't like had to do with exactly what you're talking about, and it was like, interesting, So that's very interesting.
I can see that you're very driven. You're hardworking. You probably will do anything to get the job done. But you're better off working independent. That you get annoyed with people that don't work as hard as you or aren't as responsive, and you really have no patience for that.
Very true.
Yeah.
But you're the type of guy that would end up being like writing books, or being the lecturer, or being the person that goes to the international symposiums, because you're just more knowledgeable than everyone else, because you did all this extra work, because you're so driven. Like you would end up making command performances or being more successful, but you worked for it. It wasn't handed to you. You've got the chart of like a person that everything they get, they earned. That you didn't get anything for nothing.
I believe that. He doesn't seem lazy. We went to go. My sister was talking about you when we were at the Canyon of the Ancients, and you were
Oh,
you were taking notes on everything. My brother, my sister, and I were walking through the old, ancient Puebloan ruins, and looking at things and reading things and just enjoying it. And Eric is taking copious notes on everything he sees, and she's like, "He's intense," and I was like, "Yep." He's like, he's really seeing everything, and I'm like, "Yep." So she was getting a kick out of you because you did that. And what's interesting to me is I used to be that way when I was younger, but I'm not that way now. Like when I was a kid, I would take notes on everything or have a book, and I'm like, now I'm just like, yeah, whatever. I have a question for you, Paul. This might be dangerous, but if you look at my chart, can you run how two people would get along together in terms of a work relationship?
I can, but I've got a Mac and I've got my program on like an IBM sector of the Mac, and I would lose my Skype to turn off the Mac side and go. I can't do it right now, but I can compare two charts, and I can do synastry charts where you do the midpoints between the two charts. There's a number of ways to run it. You can also do astrology where you have the date of an incorporation or the date you sign a contract, or like a wedding, like what the exact minute a couple got married, and you can see how the marriage will be, or the corporation will be, or the business partnership, stuff like that. That's interesting too.
Okay, well that's good to know. That's very, very, very interesting. So back to Mercury retrograde, we had a question from Christopher in the Spreaker chat room, and he says the way I think he was hearing us talk about healing during retrograde. So can you use Mercury retrograde to take away negative energy? Was his question.
Well, you can, because people are more open to trying something new, that they are more open to whatever works. A lot of people have strong religious beliefs, and they follow a certain religion and don't like to deviate. But sometimes if someone's in pain or they're not feeling good, they'll say, I'll try anything. If whatever works is fine with me, and they're more flexible or thinking outside the box, as I would put it. And you get that where they're still religious, but they are willing to try something outside of what their religion has to offer because they haven't found the cure or the solution.
So they're more open to overcoming limitations, it sounds like, or to
overcoming limitations, or giving permission to work on them, or trying something new, because they're just more flexible. When Mercury's retrograde, it's great flexibility, and people are not linear, like on the highway going 75 miles an hour in the fast lane, just wanting to get where they want to go. They're more like in neutral, or pausing, or contemplating what would be the best thing to do, and they accept more healing. It's a time where you can get breakthroughs. I've seen it time and again.
That is very, very cool. I'm actually thinking, so I sort of had an integration of my alien self, and it was in December of 1996 or 97. Can you tell if that would have been a retrograde period? Do you know?
I can.
Okay.
But I need to. I would have to use a specific date, and if the retrograde started a week later or ended a week earlier, I could miss it. It would be better if I looked at it like that email with the spreadsheet where I ran through like 2 months, and right. I could make sure I didn't miss it, because if I just run it on a specific day, the day could be retrograde, but I could be missing the retrograde by a few days. Okay. But I can tell you,
It was the
Was
first
that
week.
the retrograde period? It was.
Yeah.
It was the retrograde period.
Okay, yeah, it was the first week. At earliest, it was the last week of November, but I believe it was the first week of December. And that sounds like what's happening.
December 1 and the year again. I want to make sure I have the year.
Hold on, let me just. 97. It was 97.
97. And where were you? What
I was in
well,
Boston.
I don't
Yeah, I was in
okay.
the greater Boston area.
Okay, just Boston, Mass.
And he is looking that up. And as he looks that up, I'm just going to be checking both chat rooms here. Hey, Eric, my brother John, who you've met, just messaged me and told me that he's in New Mexico. He's moving to Colorado. He's moving to Macos, where we were, by Canyon of the Ancients. So
awesome.
Congratulations to my brother John, who has a big moving truck, and he is now in New Mexico, which is only a few hours away from his ultimate destination. We do. Robin St. Charles in the SOR chat room has given us his birth information. Robin, please add what your question might be along with that, because it'll give Paul an opportunity to just look at something real quickly. He hasn't asked a question.
Okay, while he's giving you that information, I did look at December 1, 1997, and everything is within 120 degrees of the zodiac, which is 360 degrees, and most of the planets are actually all together. The only planet that's apart is Saturn, and what I'm feeling is this was a merging of energies. This would have been an integration period, because everything was together. There were no oppositions, and the furthest apart was Saturn, and Saturn is structure and like the skeleton, the organization that people have, like the systems people use in their life. So you would have been putting everything into one system and integrating. This is an example of an integration type of chart.
Yeah, this was, and for me, the way that it manifested was a higher light being alien self, which to some might look like a praying mantis, but wasn't quite as bent. Actually, and I'm not a walk-in. I am who I was born to be and who I was when I came in here. But what integrated was this alien self and these other non-human selves. I was kind of awake for 2 or 3 days. I didn't go psychotic, which can happen if you stay awake for that long. I just had so much energy as this integration happened that I was painting, I was writing music, I was going to work. I went to another astrologer who was also a medium, and I said to her, if I could stay awake 24 hours a day and just create things, I would. Because I feel like I should just be creating. And she didn't tend to explain things the way Paul does, but now this makes more sense. And she said, yeah, that makes sense with where you're at. But I actually could feel, as I was walking around, like I would look at my limbs and I could actually see this alien being that I was, this light being that was inside. It was very interesting.
I want to tell you something. The sun on December 1, 1997 is at 9 degrees Sag, and Pluto is at 5 degrees Sag. So if you went back 4 days, which would bring us from December 1st to November 27th, November 27th, the sun was right on Pluto, and Pluto is transformation and doors opening and doors closing. And I feel like November 27 was when the transformation actually initiated, when the sun and Pluto were conjunct.
Yeah, I think that's really right. I think it happened about 3 or 4 days before I realized what was happening, because I had all this energy and I was like, what the heck is going on? You know, I don't feel like sleeping. I feel like painting. I feel like writing music. I feel like singing. And then by the 3rd or 4th day, that's when I really felt like this larger, and not quite human being had arrived and was trying to figure out how to get that elbow and this elbow. And that went on for a couple more days.
Well, the other thing is that the moon had crossed the sun, and it would have been conjunct the sun, which would have been a new moon, like a day and a half earlier. So that would have been like the 29th of November. So, like, let's say it happened on the 27th, but you were in like an incubation period or an integration period, and you really weren't able to do anything with it until the 29th, and you were still processing, but like new things were happening the 29th, and then it kind of came to critical mass on the 1st or 2nd of December.
Yeah, that seems to be right. Yeah, that makes sense. Hey, Paul, before we go to break, and I want to just check to make sure that it's okay with you. I have a couple people who are giving us their numbers, and they're not asking questions, so I think they want to know if they were born under retrograde, or if you might be able to tell if they have a retrograde progression. When we get back after the break, would you be willing to look at their information, or I can give it to you during the break and then you can tell them?
Well, what would be better to do, and I'm willing to do this, is to give me their information and their in a contact email, and to do it after the show when I can get into my other program when I'm not on Skype, and I can then get back to them, because it takes a little bit of work to get in and run it, and then I have to look like from the day they were born, progressing, to see like if they've got retrogrades, or I would probably want to do that so I could tell them where the retrogrades were and what years in their chart, and I could send them a spreadsheet on it.
Okay, and why don't you go ahead and tell everybody what your email is before the break here. And Angel and Brent and Robin, go ahead and email Paul. Would that work for you?
That would be the best way. My email is paul@mediumpaul.com. That's PAUL@mediumpaul.com. And it's real easy to do this, but it's better to do it when I'm not on the show, because I need to concentrate on the show, and I can't go in and run a lot of calculations or move spreadsheets and export stuff into Excel while I'm talking to people.
Okay, that would be great. So Angel, Brent, Robin, go ahead. And what is your email again?
Paul@mediumpaul.com. And anyone else that would like me to do this, I'm willing to do it for all the listeners that are interested. So it's not limited to those 3 people.
Okay, so that's where you send your info to. And major thanks to Paul for doing that. And we are going to go into our first break here and come back in just a few minutes. Stay tuned. We'll be back with Paul for another half hour after the break. Thanks for listening. This is Cosmic Passport.
Hey, space travelers. It's Joe Root, your host of Spaced Out Saturdays. Come join me as we explore the realms of the paranormal, the esoteric, and everything in between every Saturday night at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern. You know the truth is out there. Don't get caught sleepwalking. Come join Spaced Out Saturdays. That's every Saturday night, 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, right here on spacedoutradio.com.
365 days a year, we're in the field, investigating UFO sightings, talking to alien abductees, and visiting secret military locations like Area 51. We're UFO Seekers, official partner of Spaced Out Radio. Follow our daily search for the truth at ufoseekers.com or like us on social media. Catch us on Spaced Out Radio every third Monday of the month as we discuss Area 51, UFOs, and more. And also, don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube.
From coast to coast to coast, Blacklight Uncharted is taking on the paranormal across Canada. From ghostly hauntings to the UFOs flying above in conjunction with MUFON Canada, we're closely investigating what's going on in the northern skies and checking out the apparitions that walk among us. Check out our videos right here at spacedoutradio.com. We want to know your thoughts, we want to hear your experiences, and we want you to share your stories. The answers are out there, and we intend to find them.
Would you like to become one of our space travelers? All you have to do is click on the Space Travelers icon at spacedoutradio.com. For only $5 a month, you can get access to some great prizes, as well as private monthly shows, newsletters, and a members-only section on our website. Become a space traveler today.
It's paranormal news at its finest. Welcome to The Encounter. At spacedoutradio.com, The Encounter online is SOR's trusted news source for everything weird and strange going on around the world. This is news editor Eric Marcum. Our team of journalists are scouring the planet for those strange stories that rarely make the mainstream. No fear-mongering or fake news here. Head over to spacedoutradio.com and encounter The Encounter.
Want to learn more about aliens, cover-ups, conspiracies, cryptids, and the paranormal? All you have to do is tune in S4 as we take over the Spaced Out Radio night, starting at midnight Pacific, 3 a.m. Eastern, each and every Saturday night, right after Spaced Out Saturdays. Hi there, this is Eric Cooper from Forest Moon Paranormal. Join me, Corey Ruiz, and friends as we discuss the hot topics of the night. It's fun, entertaining, and as dark as the night. Find us at spacedoutradio.com.
Hey, this is Canadian Paranormal Investigator Mike Moore. The third Wednesday of every month, I'll be teaming up with Dave Scott to bring you Ghosts of the Great White North. Each month, we will bring on guests from across Canada to discuss their ghostly encounters. Canada is a paranormal hotbed with stories you've never heard, so we're going to bring them to you. So get comfy on your Chesterfield, grab a donut, and join us, eh?
There's a lot of strange going on in this world, and we can help you find out what's going on with you. Paranormal, cryptids, UFOs in the sky, aliens in your bedroom tickling your toes. We have the investigators you need to find out the answers you deserve. All you have to do is head to spacedoutradio.com. Your information is 100% confidential. The SOR Sightlines Report. It's free, and we're here to help.
Do you want to know what's really going on in your world? Do you have questions about who you can trust in the mainstream media? Then look no further than the Rebel Planet. Come get the straight answers right here at spacedoutradio.com. Join me, Jamie Sexton, creator of Rebel Planet News, as I fill you in on the stories behind the stories. All you truth seekers, be sure to tune in to Rebel Planet on spacedoutradio.com the third Thursday of every month.
Are you an experiencer? Have you had run-ins with strange creatures you can't explain? ETs, Dogman, Bigfoot, werewolves? They're enough to scare the daylights out of anyone. Hi there, I'm Butch Witkowski from your 4-Cop. And on the last Monday of every month, you can listen to me and the host, Dave Scott, talk about the weird and the strange being reported on Spaced Out Radio. I'm going to bring my investigations and sources, you bring your experiences, and we'll figure out the rest together. Strange Days on Spaced Out Radio. Come tune us in at spacedoutradio.com.
Are you interested in advertising on Spaced Out Radio? Head to our website at spacedoutradio.com and click on our advertising tab. There, you will find an assortment of ways you can get your product out there with us, from radio commercials to banners and social media. Have a product you like our hosts to endorse? We can do that too. Visit spacedoutradio.com for more details.
Don't have time to listen to Spaced Out Radio live? Wherever you are, the car, the office, the shower, or even if you're traveling, we're right here for you. Each Spaced Out Radio show can be found on iTunes, TuneIn, and on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. It's the perfect way for you to catch up on our shows. For more information, just head over to our website, spacedoutradio.com, and tune in to us today.
Looking for nighttime adventure? Old school radio that delves into everything out of the norm? Then check us out at Spaced Out Radio. This is Dave Scott. Every Monday through Friday, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, we're going to take you on a wild ride ranging from conspiracies to true crime and every ghost, alien, and Sasquatch story in between. We're always live, and we're always interactive with you. So join us at spacedoutradio.com, where together, we own the night.
The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guests and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Weekend, Spaced Out Radio Limited, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. And hit us up on Twitter using the hashtag SpacedOutRadio. Now, back to Elizabeth Anglin and SOR.
And we are back. This is your host, Elizabeth Anglin, on SOR, Spaced Out Radio's Cosmic Passport. I am so happy to be here with you tonight. This super full moon in Gemini with Mercury retrograde. We actually are getting our equipment to work, even though the computers did go crash when the dog knocked them off the table. You know, hey, when else is that going to happen but on Mercury retrograde? We're so happy to have Paul Simons here with us. And we just want to let you know we're coming to you live from the Desert Southwest in Madrid, New Mexico. Thank all of you listening in from around North America and the world, everyone at WQEE 99 Rock the Key in Noonan, Georgia, at spacedoutradio.com on Spreaker, and on the United Public Radio Talk Network, Renegade Talk Radio, the High Plains Talk Radio Network, and on thefringe.fm. Thanks, Ron Bumblefoot THAL. We love that you make our music for us. And all of you who are on Twitter, thanks for tweeting at each other. I'm not actually listening at Twitter because my computer for some reason doesn't do that. Sorry about that. But if you want to talk to me, you can go to the Spreaker chat room, or you can go to the SOR Space Travelers chat room. You can also follow me and see what shows are coming up on Cosmic Passport on Facebook at Cosmic Passport with Elizabeth Anglin. And if you're wondering how you can hear our shows, you can check us out on spacedoutradio.com, tune us in on TuneIn, download our shows from iTunes. We are on radioguide.fm, TalkStream Live, and on Stitcher. So there are a plethora of ways for you to listen, not only to Cosmic Passport, but to Spaced Out Radio, which is a lovely radio program. And tomorrow night, Dave Scott will be back in, as he is 5 nights a week. On Saturday, Joe Roop will be on Spaced Out Radio Saturday. He's coming in to do Saturdays for the perceivable future, and to the extent that we can perceive it, and we are very happy about that. And I will be back next Sunday. Paul Simons, are you coming back next Sunday for Psychic Sunday? Okay. Yeah. I'll probably be interviewing someone else. Thank you. And our psychic has informed me that next Sunday I will probably be interviewing someone else for the first hour. But Paul will be available for readings again. And we are hoping Paisley will be able to join us. It is Mercury retrograde. What happened tonight was my first guest was ill, and then Joe Roop was going to come on, and then he was ill. And so it will still be Mercury retrograde, so we will see what will happen. But Paul will definitely be here, I will be here, and we will be doing Psychic Sunday I'm sorry you couldn't hear Paul, but he will be here. Okay, so everybody who's all listening, we are going to be talking now about things that you should and should not do in Mercury retrograde. And these are not moral things. These are not, don't do drugs, don't, make whoopee in public, don't be wild and crazy, because I think wild and crazy is generally better than not wild and crazy. But these are things like signing contracts. Now, I have a friend who is in the process of getting a divorce. And if somebody were in the process of signing divorce papers right now, what would be your advice to them about doing that?
Well, there are usually some things that happen after a divorce is finalized, like the deposition, the disposal or the sale of a home, family home, and things like property that has to be split and matters like that, some finances. And usually when Mercury's retrograde, people don't have the wording or the language or the contractual details all listed. And let's say you had a house for sale and the man moved out and the woman was living in the house after the divorce with dependent children, and she didn't want to show the house, or she didn't want to have it in show condition because she was not interested in selling it, perhaps, or not, or too busy, didn't have time to keep it in show condition because she had her hands full with the kids and other responsibilities, or working as well. And there isn't any teeth about how is this house going to be sold, and 2 months, 3 months go by and there aren't really very many showings and it's not selling, and you have to go back to court to figure out how it's going to be handled again. Stuff like that has happened a lot, and a lot of times there's other errors and omissions or things that are left out, or stuff that isn't fully covered, and then it has to be revisited in the future. So the problem is with lack of detail or missing information, and you could go through with the divorce and then just deal with it in the future, but it can be messy. And you don't want to sign contracts, you don't want to buy houses typically, you don't want to start new jobs. There's a number of things that there's caution that you don't have all the facts, or you didn't get all the information given to you. It may not be that you did anything wrong, but you weren't provided with all the important information. And it would be like buying a house and not knowing that it had a problem with flooding, or the basement leaked, or the people didn't disclose everything. Stuff like that can happen. It's just caution that you don't have all the information, and it's not saying that any one person's doing something to hurt you or take advantage of you. It's just like a time when things aren't linear and everyone doesn't have all their T's crossed and I's dotted. So it just causes a lot of heartache when you sign papers or you make big contracts. You wouldn't want to buy a house or start a job if you can avoid it with Mercury retrograde, because you probably will have a lot of issues with things they didn't tell you about.
So don't get married. Basically, getting divorced was probably better than getting married in Mercury retrograde, because you could be getting yourself into something that you or what do you think? Should you get married during Mercury retrograde?
It's not recommended because there's usually things that are not revealed. It's sort of things are not understood or missed, and if you really don't understand the person you're marrying, or there's certain things about their situation that you didn't understand, it's going to be painful later when you have to deal with it. It's just in general not recommended, but you can do it if like it's a karmic marriage or something, or you're going into a situation and you have to do it for karmic reasons or for something like that. You could probably get married any time, and it won't necessarily be the easiest marriage, but you're working things out and you're clearing things. And if you are getting a divorce after you've worked out the karma, maybe this man you asked about just now, he had a karmic marriage, and now it's time to leave because the karma's been worked out, it's been finished, and it doesn't matter if it's retrograde or direct with Mercury because he's worked out the karma. So it's not like ironclad every time, but in general, you don't want to enter into big contracts or buy liquid properties like a house that once you bought it, it's really hard to sell it, and it's a big job to do. You don't want to do that when Mercury's retrograde because there may be something significant that you miss, like you got a house with a septic system and a leaching field and it doesn't work correctly and you didn't realize something about it and you find out later, but you bought the house and you got to dig up your backyard to repair the septic system and leaching field, stuff like that.
It almost seems like Mercury retrograde is like a timeout. Take a 21-day timeout, reflect on what you're doing, don't, charge into anything. It's almost like the universe set up a timeout for, and if maybe the reason retrograde's got such a bad rap is instead of using it for what it's for, people ignore it and then they end up paying the consequences because they were supposed to be reflecting, not charging ahead.
Right. Well, you'll never hear an astrologer say, don't get married, don't buy the house. It's just this point in time, things aren't linear. It's better to hold off the transaction till it's gone direct and you've gotten a week or two after that so that those three passes of the planets and Mercury or Mercury in the different degrees is over. So you should still buy the house. You should still get divorced. You should still do what you need to do or start the job. But if you can avoid it during that period, you'll save yourself a lot of heartache.
So basically, and I've over the years, even though I've seen really tremendously sort of amazing things happen, especially on the first day of a retrograde, because I knew it was happening. I knew what day it was. For example, in 2002, December of 2002, the first day of retrograde, a Quebecois lumber truck driver hit the supports on the central artery through downtown Boston over the river. So basically, you know how that they had that multi-tiered bridge over the river and the central artery? He was drunk.
The Tobin Bridge.
The Tobin Bridge. He took out the supports to the bridge during rush hour. Now, how did he do this? But it was the first day of retrograde. And the Boston Globe had this giant, the front page was his picture, giant picture, and the headline, "Lumber Jerk," because nobody could get anywhere in Boston on that day. And I'm looking at this and I'm going, oh, yeah, right, it's the first day of Mercury retrograde. And I was in the Green Building at MIT, where you could look out across the river from the Green Building, from the windows, and see all the cars lined up on the central artery. And so it was like, yep, first day of retrograde. But that doesn't mean, hide under the covers unless you really want to. It just means it'll take longer, right? Like whatever you're doing.
Right.
Be prepared for delays, right?
I'll give you another example. Let's say you're going to upgrade your routers in your office building and you're going to buy like the latest version. You should do the research, but you shouldn't buy them until after the retrograde, because you may find that they're not actually what you need, or there's some technical information you didn't have, or anything technical is best held off, or like electronic, communications, servers, computers, routers, even buying, like if you were buying 200 iPhones for a large company for people that needed iPhones, company phones, you wouldn't want to buy it during the retrograde. It may sound like it would be fine, but it's better to wait till it's direct.
All right, so if you wanted to improve something, so I'm in a situation where I feel like I've got some unresolved issues with a person in a relationship. Would this be the time to attempt to at least clear the air, if not completely resolve them, or try to resolve them?
It would actually be good to do mediation or to go to a counselor, because it allows you to think outside the box. And a lot of times when you've got problems with a relationship, it's because people aren't flexible, or they're not open-minded, or they're not looking at all the options or creative solutions. And during the retrograde, people are offline and they're more flexible. They're more able to listen, and it would be great for counseling or mediation.
Okay, so resolving issues. On the supermoon in particular, would this be a good retrograde for resolving unresolved issues? Would the supermoon lend anything to that in Gemini?
Well, what supermoon does is it brings things to the surface. Anything that's been repressed or hidden or needs fixing is probably on the person's mind, or it's brought to the surface to be released or to be worked on. So people know what their issues are. There's no gray area about it. There's no confusion. They know what's bothering them. Either they're overworking, or they're in too much debt, or they have issues with their relationship or their marriage, and they need to see if they can work it out or get out of it altogether. And these are times where everything is at the surface. But what's unusual about today is we had Mercury go retrograde, and we have a supermoon, the only one for the whole year, on the same day. And then another thing that is going to happen is the day that Mercury goes direct, which is December 22nd, is in the northern hemisphere the winter solstice, which is a really power day too. And that's going to be a day that there's a lot of energy and things start moving forward in a big way. It's almost like you turn the circuit breakers on and the whole office building lights up, like the whole planet will kind of start moving forward. Like everyone's been like thinking about things and contemplating stuff, and the 22nd of December is going to be a significant day. I can't tell with astrology how and where, and like what's going to be significant in England, what's going to be significant in Japan, what's going to be significant in China. I can't tell you, but it's going to be significant, and you'll find out, or you'll read things, or you'll hear things about what happened, usually the day that Mercury goes direct, and being on the solstice. It's a real powerful day.
Okay. Well, all right, so one last question for me. Eric and I are going to do a new show that nobody has done before. We are going to do like an old-timey radio show program telling stories from H.P. Lovecraft. And I wanted to do that this month, even though it's new. Now, H.P. Lovecraft is old. That's old sci-fi. That's old horror. But and the process of reading stories on the radio is old. But we'd like to do it like the Nightmare Before Christmas. Would this be an okay time to do that?
The night before Christmas?
The Nightmare Before Christmas, which is H.P. Lovecraft horror stories before Christmas. Because
it would be okay. What I feel is this would be something that wouldn't be a problem. You wouldn't end up with people confused. People would enjoy it. The only thing is you need to be careful that you get time when you're going to be on, when you're going to do it, because people might sign on at the wrong time and they might be late. They might miss part of it.
Okay. So just make sure you let everybody know when the time is, and make sure that when you do the invitation, you have the time on there, right? That's what I got to remember, Eric. So it's going to work out okay. All right, and I'm going to segue this whole conversation into artificial intelligence, because Mercury retrograde does affect computers and communication. And one of the things that we were going to talk about, just Eric and us tonight on our nerdy portion of the program, was artificial intelligence, and in some part companion robots, artificial intelligence companion robots. Now, this is way out there, you don't have to answer it, but for example, if you had a companion robot and it's Mercury retrograde, what could you expect to have happen with your companion robot during Mercury retrograde?
Well, one of the things I'm getting is if you were charging your robot, like charging the battery supply, you could have a power surge, or you could have something that needs to be replaced in the electronics.
Okay, so you could accidentally kill your companion robot during Mercury retrograde. At least for a little bit.
It's possible and actually likely.
Okay. Would your companion robot, and you can look at this psychically, accidentally kill you because of a glitch? You know, like your robot's hugging you and he just happens to hug you too hard.
It's possible. It's like that. Like the van that is driverless that got hit in an accident. Things can happen, but it's unlikely. I don't think that would happen to lots of people, but it's possible.
Okay. All right. Well, we're gonna go into that because there are issues to talk about in artificial intelligence and computing. Like, I just realized today that most of our business applications are becoming artificial intelligence, or at least having some layer of artificial intelligence. That artificial intelligence is out, it's on the net. All sorts of things are predicted to happen in 2018 with artificial intelligence being involved in hacks against foreign states, our AIs against AIs in terms of hacking, where there isn't actually a human hacker involved anywhere. Do you have any thoughts on this, Paul, before we let you go for the night?
Well, I do feel that there's a lot of vulnerabilities that have not been really addressed, and there are countries that are looking at ways to take down, like, the energy grid, or take down the water systems, reservoirs, and controlling water. And I feel like there's a lot of risk that some of this is going to happen on a large scale, and I do think next year we're going to see this much more often. It's going on right now, but it's kind of like under the radar. But I think there'll be some bigger, large-scale actions.
That's actually predicted. That's been predicted, and I was reading articles on that. That is a prediction by people in the field that this will happen in 2018, that people will become aware of how much AI is influencing and hacking, that it's AI to AI warfare in terms of hacking. So interesting that you predict that too. Scientifically, we don't know why. Paul Simons is a psychic. He does look at the probability field, and he comes up with exactly what the scientists in the field come up with in terms of AI against AI warfare. Paul, thank you so much for coming on tonight. If people want to contact you for a reading, if they want to send their astrology numbers for you to look at them quickly, how do they get in touch with you?
Well, my email is paul@mediumpaul.com, and I have received some emails for astrology, so anyone else that's listening to this show is welcome to send me an email with their birth information. What I'll do is I'll run the chart. I'll run a report about the birth chart, and I'll also look at the retrogrades during their lifetime. Probably go out to like 90 years of age. People may live longer, but after about 90, most people have done what they came here to do, even if they're going to live to be 105. The last 10, 15 years, they take it easy. So I'll do 90 days of progressions. And if you want more work done, I would want to do like a consultation, and there'd be a fee involved. But this initial chart with the report and the 90 days of progressions is free, and I'm happy to do that for anyone that's listening tonight.
Wow, thank you so much. That's so very generous. And if we have we are the numbers of people that I think are listening, we may be inundated. But thank you again for coming on, Paul. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you for having me on the show, and I really enjoyed talking to the people and, reporting back from their chat messages what I saw.
Thanks. Okay, so we're going to let Paul go and get Eric back on here. I know he said some things in the chat room that I cannot repeat on air because my mama would wash my mouth out with, various things, or my school teacher would, or somebody would. But I did want to talk about tonight, for not to put too fine a point on it, sex robots. Because I was on Facebook, and on Facebook what I saw was some very interesting posting about a sex robot for women. Now I thought, okay, that'll never happen because that's way too complicated, and then I saw this whole ad for one, and I went, oh my gosh, that's happening? That could actually happen? And then the me that doesn't like complications, and I'm sure some of you who are listening out there don't like complications, said, that could be cool because that would be like someone to be around with no complications. But then when you think about it, I don't know. Complications are kind of the spice of life. And we haven't even gotten into issues of karma, the reason why people come together to work out things karmically, through memory and desire. We haven't even gotten into some of those issues. And we haven't gotten into issues of, what does happen when something goes wrong. So I'm going to read a little bit. Well, actually, I'm not, because it does embarrass me. But let me see. Let me see what I'm going to do.
Quite some time now. I think maybe the third or fourth Newswire articles I ever wrote for Spaced Out Radio was about the oncoming, this technology, whether we're prudish and reject it, or we are accepting it's coming. It's coming whether we want to or not.
Yeah.
And you just look at how, think of the people out there that could that look at it dispassionately and just look at it as a nuts and bolts problem.
Yeah.
There are people out there for which this would be a godsend. There are lonely people out there that would be the most awesome thing on earth. And then there's, but it's coming.
It's coming. Yeah, and there are things. I mean, you can, if when the media reports on this, it's usually some. There's some things that are written that are funny. Like I'm looking at an article on Rebel Circus, and it's talking about a scientist Matt McMullen, who says his male sex dolls are going to be equipped with batteries to work on their own, and eventually they're going to be chargeable, so they can have sex indefinitely. And it's like, well, that's kind of funny, but it's kind of not. It's like, it's kind of funny, but it's kind of like, yeah, all right.
It's going to be like any other technology. You got people who can't put their damn iPhone away for 30 seconds.
Right.
That are going to abuse that kind of technology the same way.
Yeah. And
it's I can see the pros and cons, both sides of it.
Yeah, and there are people who are protesting this change in technology or the adoption of this technology because they say that it would turn sexual relationships into commodities. But if you look at it, isn't that what we do anyway? I mean, Eric Fromm wrote a book about people commoditizing each other, even whether if it's unsaid or said or it's in the marketplace or not in the marketplace, or you're getting married. I mean, how many times do you go on a dating site and you're looking for a set of attributes in a person? You're commoditizing at that point. You would do this, and this for me. And it is like, well, I want a Subaru, not a Lexus, or I want a Lexus, not a truck. It's
right.
Like, so to say that
people don't. The main thing is people are not honest with themselves.
Mm-hmm.
They've got this. They've been brainwashed from birth with this, Judeo-Christian ethic that's largely BS. It's misinterpretation. It's repressive, and they have unrealistic expectations to start with. So, yes, it's already commodity. I'm not sure how that word's coming out, but I mean, the whole thing has been a racket since the dawn of time.
And we could look at this as the next evolution of our technological society, where all of a sudden we had TVs and we had print advertising that was no longer line drawn pictures, and then we had color photographs in our print advertising and in our TVs, and then all of a sudden we were inundated with advertising images where the perfect woman or the perfect man looks like this and does these things and has these things and owns these things. And so in a way, when we see these images that we are been inundated with since many of us were children, and we're coming into an age where you can make something that resembles a human being but make them look perfect, aren't we just going that one step up from where we've already been, which is sex sells, or this is what you're supposed to do, be, and have? Because we also have that, not just the Judeo-Christian ethic, we also have this ethic of capitalism, which is that if you're going to be okay in the world, you need to be driving this, you need to be drinking this, you need to be looking like this. And have we not brainwashed ourselves into a situation where maybe we can't cope with what our reality is because it's not what we've been told for decades it's supposed to be? What do you think? I don't know.
I think we've been too brainwashed into looking at the surface.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I ain't nobody's pretty baby, but I'm a hell of a lot smarter than the average person.
Mm-hmm.
So, but finding that out takes work, because the initial impression of the exterior is axe murder, run the other direction. So,
actually, he's being hard on himself, folks. That's not what I thought when I first saw him. But as I got to know him, I sort of wondered. But no, it's not the first thing I thought when I first saw you. I was like, oh, he's taller, and he's more intense than I thought. But a certain kind of person would think, wow, that's a really intense guy. I wonder if he has an axe. I didn't think that because I knew him at least well enough from doing the show with him.
Well, I put it under your seat, so it was out of reach. So.
Oh, so I couldn't reach it. Okay.
That's why I had to buy the rock hammer.
Oh yeah, I did. We did on our trip. We did go to a rock shop, and he did buy a very large rock hammer, which could have taken me out at any second along the way afterwards. All right, but I do think you're being hard on yourself in terms of people being afraid of you. But the question is, the answer is nobody looks like what a sex bot can look like. But at the same time, human beings are much more complicated. And part of me, being the age that I am, when I was looking at the Facebook ad, I did go to that place where I was like, well, that would be uncomplicated. And the question is, how far down the rabbit hole does that go when you're looking at a sex bot and you're going, well, that would be uncomplicated. That would take away a whole host of problems. Is that just extreme human laziness, creeping up its ugly head? I really don't want to have
Or
to
is it just general disgust with the way society has, society and the way things are, what's supposed to be, have become so unrealistic that this would be, I think you could look at that as being, no, it's not just you're doing away with the complications, but you're also going back to a basic relationship that, metro human beings have sort of evolved away from. So they're more of a simple, pleasure-based, get it over with and then put it back in the closet type of thing, get on with your life.
I still think that would be lonely. To me, I think that it might be fun for a little bit, but it would be lonely because I was thinking about all of the other things that are going on in artificial intelligence where sex bots have not gotten to yet. And some of the things there are chat bots that are learning syntax and colloquialisms and how to speak to human beings. And I thought, when I was reading about them, I said, well, my sex bot would have to have, its chatbot programming would have to be a pun bot. It would have to be the kind of robot that had a particular sense of humor, like a Bruce Becker from the SOR Space Travelers chat room, or somebody who is particularly wry and ironic and also wordy in a weird way. Because otherwise I'd just be like, you bore me. Go be in the closet. Go live in the closet, and I'm just gonna disconnect you. Because I tend to do that with people. So I'm sure my sex bot would be another thing in my closet.
You gotta wonder though, if you have a truly adaptive, evolving AI, that's where the danger is going to come in. There's going to be this point where that companion robot is going to become truly a very subtly custom programmed companion to a person. We're going to pass beyond that, and it's not going to take that many years either. If you look at how the technology has already jumped ahead,
right?
You're going to have this thing where after about a month or two, the robot or the android is going to be in your head, know you better than you know yourself through the artificial intelligence.
Right. So if they did these separate filters, like, okay, your chatbot has a pun bot, but it's also got learn this person, learn what will push their buttons, because we do that. We learn how to push each other's buttons. We process those things and we do those things to each other whether or not we realize we're doing it, and that's why relationships are difficult a lot of times. It's sort of like, oh, yeah, okay, well, I can push his buttons. Poke, and unless you're a conscious person, you're not going to admit that you just went poke. You're going to be like, why are you doing this to me? Or no, I didn't make you react. You're just reacting. And if you go back and you look at the whole string of the conversation, somebody has made an aggressive interpersonal move. It could become that sort of thing where all of a sudden you end up with a sociopathic sex bot who wants to win the game with you. Because we also have AIs that are gaming, they're doing war games. So, and what's to prevent
I'm afraid AI is the single most dangerous thing that humanity is going to face. I mean, even if a asteroid came from space and wiped us out, we would die as humans. I think artificial intelligence is going to basically supplant. I'm not saying subjugate or anything. I just think we'll die out. Humans will get to where they want to interact. They want to have that custom interaction with that robot, or that, whatever we end up calling them. The artificial humans are going to end up being the preferred companions, and we're slowly, unless it's like a mandated, you have to go to the state bank and deposit some genetic material, and we're doing test tube stuff. But I mean, even that, how long would that have to go on before AI would say, we don't really need the walking meat bags around anymore, and just more or less let us disappear through apathy?
Ah, that is so dark. That's so you. But I tend to see it, and part of the way I'm tending to see it is in this other simultaneous thing that's going on, which is this sort of creation of personality and eventual idea of downloading consciousness, like downloading someone's personality into a robot, into an AI. And I mean, frankly, folks, as a near-death experiencer, which is not scientific, I know, when we are being nerdy, I so don't want to have my consciousness downloaded into an AI. I really want to go do what human beings would naturally go do. Part of me wants to say that perhaps AIs are the next challenge to human beings waking up to being a soul or a spirit in a body already. That AIs might significantly challenge that, because when we tried to do it as human beings, it's sort of like your messed up Battlestar Galactica Cylons. You know what I'm saying? It's like the Cylons started making Cylons better than the human beings made Cylons, and but they basically made them just like human beings, in that they were re-uploaded into the heaven ship or whatever it was called.
The resurrection ship.
The resurrection ship. So the consciousness didn't
Well, the thing is,
go
you're
away.
starting with an artificial intelligence, supposedly a soulless creation anyway. So there's really no problem with reloading, unloading reloading that consciousness back into another Cylon body. However, as humans, I don't think downloading, you can take, and as a matter of fact, I think we have the capability to do it now, to download all the characteristics that make me what I am. However, when you put that into that next, that's a Xerox copy. That is not the essential part, the soul, the part of me that looks in the mirror or sits in and thinks inside my head. That voice that is me, that's not going to be in that downloaded robot. So you can have somebody that looks like you, talks like you, thinks like you, walking around, but it isn't the original. It isn't going to have that spark that makes us what we are.
And that leads me to the ethical dilemma of who is going to take advantage of the fact that they can download the appearance of personality into a robot. Like at some point they'll be able to make another Eric from how you look at whatever age or situation that somebody wants to order up, to how you act, your mannerisms, your colloquialisms, your syntax, your linguistics, everything, your smile, your walk, your likes to go out, hammer on rocks, that sort of thing. What happens when, you have a particularly obsessive wife or girlfriend who has lots of money, and you pass away, and she orders up this robot duplicate of you? I mean, the ethical dilemma there is that she never heals from the fact that you passed away. She never moves on. She never has a new relationship and learns a completely new things with someone else or by herself if she chooses to be. Because
even beyond that, say there was a personality trait that they just absolutely loathed, he would have been so great if he didn't do this, and they program that out. So there you've turned what was a unique individual with their own things that you had no control over. Now you can control them.
Right.
What's the ethics there?
And what would people learn from that? To some extent, I think people would, especially if they're grieving, they would realize that they missed that annoying thing that you did because they loved you and you did it. Over time it got to be annoying, but without it, the robot that they're with isn't actually you. So it just is a reminder that you are actually gone. I see that happening more. It's like, this person is so-and-so, but they don't do this thing that I hate, so I know it's not them, and therefore I'm reminded that the person is gone. So I think if I were in business, I'd be more likely to completely duplicate the person so that it's
right
it's
down
more
to the
seamless.
annoying habits and everything.
Right down to the annoying, right down to them nuclear bombing everybody in traffic around them. I mean, that would just be like, yep, we got to have that. Because otherwise it's not my person. It's not Eric. It's not the people. It's not the person I know. So I mean, and that doesn't mean that we don't want. I wouldn't want the person I was with to grow and get past their annoying habit if it was something that they needed to grow and get past. But if they were actually gone, I would be too reminded if they didn't have it. That they were gone. But that is problematic. Yeah, we're talking about consciousness, soul, or spirit. I can't imagine that an AI would have a soul or spirit. Do you think an AI would have a soul or spirit or develop one at any point?
I do believe that as AI evolves, I think given enough time, it will not just be algorithm. Part of the problem is when you think about what humans are, we're meat computers. It's hard. You talk about all a digital, artificial intelligence is a series of ones and zeros that flip one way or the other to make a decision. Well, we do it the same way. We just have wet chemistry instead of dry digital. And we confer a soul upon ourselves. We feel like we have souls, but there's those of us who are convinced that such a thing exists, others that never will. But I think given enough time, artificial intelligence will actually become true consciousness, and I believe that true consciousness is where you develop the soul. I think that's where the soul comes from.
So that you're buying into the Kurzweil thing, because he has managed pretty successfully to digitize music, to make sounds in a computer environment that sound very much like the original baby grand piano, the original saxophone, the original everything. So unless you're trained or unless you have a feeling for it, you wouldn't necessarily know, listening to some of his machines, that you are not listening to the strings and the orchestra and the timpani and everything else. You would think you were actually listening to those things. It's
like ensemble he can do, but like his guitar is crap.
It has no soul.
His synthesized guitar sounds like it's not.
Yeah.
But it's still, with Kurzweil, he wants to have he has more of a vision of a symbiosis.
Yeah.
Well, the problem is symbiosis only is when both parties are benefiting. Symbiosis is give, take equally between both halves. There is nothing that we are going to offer AI that it can't create for itself, and the relationship is going to go from symbiotic to parasitic real quick, and AI is going to decide it doesn't need the meat parasite. And it's not going to take a full generation of AI, keeping in mind that AI is going to evolve at an extremely accelerated rate as compared to flesh and blood.
You know what? I agree with you there, but I'm also thinking about what human beings do with each other, and this has to do with judgment. Your AI is going to look at this incredibly idiosyncratic, non-logical human consciousness intellect and go, okay, that programming is really effing screwed right the F up. Why would I want to carry that around inside of me? Because we do that as human beings to ourselves. We judge ourselves and we judge each other. And without, what's interesting about us having the particular meat suit that we do experience a lot of emotions. And with AI, the question is, without the chemical computing, without the serotonin and the epinephrine and you'll probably know more of the things.
Yeah.
Opioids and everything else that's running around in our systems, creating different feelings about things, or that's responding to thoughts and having an emotional response to those thoughts. AI is not going to necessarily have an emotional response to anything because it's not a chemical computer. And it's just going to go...
Right, nothing that's not in its algorithm is going to create a response.
Right. So it's not going to feel something like being the need to be protective, the need to love, to actually love, the feeling of love, which can lead to protect. And it's not going to, it may be programmed to protect, but that's not the same as the biochemical feeling of love, which they've now found out causes animals, animals feel love, and that's how why mother animals and father animals protect their young, because they're feeling this feeling of bonding and love and oxytocin and all these other things, which I'm sure you know the names of. Computers aren't going to do that. They're just going to go, it's broken. Yeah. Delete it. Delete that consciousness. It's broken. It's really a mess. And then you think about us looking at each other going, oh my God, you're broken. You're really a mess, and And even though we have our emotional connotations, we can still, when we're not close to somebody, just sort of objectively look at them and go, you're broken. You know? No, you're broken. No, not you. It's like Sherlock, sociopathic Sherlock going, not you, not you, not you, not you. Do you ever watch Sherlock?
Yes, I do. I didn't want to like it, but now, are we talking the one that's with Lucy Liu and the guy, or are we talking the one with Benedict Cumberbatch?
We're talking the Benedict Cumberbatch one.
Yes, I watched that, and I find myself thinking, why are they on him? That's sort of a perfectly logical extension of, I find myself agreeing with Sherlock probably more than it's good to admit. But.
All right, I just realized we've gone past break time. I'm sorry to interrupt you. I'm going to put on the break. We're going to come back. We're going to talk more about AIs and also Skynet and all sorts of things. Come back after the break. You can ask your questions in chat after the break. We'll see you soon.
Hi there, this is Dave Scott from Spaced Out Radio, and I want you to come on a nightly journey. Starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, every Monday through Friday, you can come hang out with me and the other space travelers. We have it all from Carl the Alien bouncing on by to those misfit gnomes causing havoc. It's 3 hours of fun and entertainment on those topics the mainstream really doesn't want to touch. Come get all paranormal with us at spacedoutradio.com, and together, my friends, along with our resident guitar god Bumblefoot, we own the night.
There's stories, then there's the truth. Do any of us really trust the news anymore? This is Jamie Sexton, owner of Rebel Planet News. The third Thursday of every month, I appear on spacedoutradio.com to bring you the truth you deserve, without mainstream media lies or alternative media fear-mongering. We'll get to the heart of the story and deliver the truth you're seeking. So come join us here for the Rebel Planet at spacedoutradio.com.
Not ready for bed on Saturday night? Right after Spaced Out Saturdays, hop on over to S4 with Corey Ruiz and me, Eric Cooper from Forest Moon Paranormal. With S4, there are no limits to what we try and uncover. From government conspiracies to helping clean up the paranormal, no topic is safe on S4. We get to the heart of the matter, of the subjects you want to learn more about. So tune in on S4 starting at midnight Pacific, 3 a.m. Eastern, only on spacedoutradio.com.
Hi there, I'm Butch Witkowski, lead investigator with U4Cop. On the final Monday of every month, you can listen to me and host Dave Scott on Spaced Out Radio's Strange Days. We're going to get to the heart of the matter when it comes to what's happening out there. People are seeing and experiencing things from ET contact to Bigfoot, and I want to hear about it. Your experiences are what we investigators need to help solve these unknown mysteries. So tune in at spacedoutradio.com to the final Monday of every month from Butch Witkowski's Strange Days.
This is Eric Marcum, news editor for Spaced Out Radio's The Encounter Online. We have put together a great team of writers and journalists from all over the world to bring you top-quality paranormal stories, from alien encounters to the latest conspiracies. You won't find any of that fake news here. True stories and top-notch reporting as we look to bring these experiences to the mainstream. The Encounter Online, only at spacedoutradio.com.
Do you want to know the truth? Do UFOs exist? Are aliens real? Are the governments hiding the biggest secret in history? We're UFO seekers, and we're on a hunt for the truth. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow along with us as we journey across the United States, visiting UFO hotspots and alien hotspots, trying to document the UFO phenomenon. Catch us on Spaced Out Radio every third Monday of the month as we discuss Area 51, UFOs, and more. And also, don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube.
There's a lot of strange going on in this world, and we can help you find out what's going on with you. Paranormal, cryptids, UFOs in the sky, aliens in your bedroom tickling your toes. We have the investigators you need to find out the answers you deserve. All you have to do is head to spacedoutradio.com. Your information is 100% confidential. The SOR Sightlines Report. It's free, and we're here to help.
Patrolling the Pacific Northwest, we are always on the lookout for the strange and unassuming stories that real people are experiencing. Hi, I'm Vincent Zunza from Pacific North Weird. Me and Alexandra Sullivan have teamed to bring to you those odd stories that never seem to make it into the mainstream. Stories so weird that will leave you scratching your head wondering, is this real? It's as real as it gets with Pacific North Weird. You can watch our videos right here at spacedoutradio.com.
Become more intimate and interactive with Spaced Out Radio. Join our Space Travelers Club with your new membership. For $5 a month, we'll provide you with special access to the website, monthly prize draws from books to psychic readings, along with monthly newsletter, private interviews, and more. Sign up today to be part of Spaced Out Radio's experience.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
Don't have time to listen to Spaced Out Radio live? Wherever you are, the car, the office, the shower, or even if you're traveling, we're right here for you. Each Spaced Out Radio show can be found on iTunes, TuneIn, and on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. It's the perfect way for you to catch up on our shows. For more information, just head over to our website, spacedoutradio.com, and tune in to us today.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com.
We're lighting the void on Saturday nights on Spaced Out Radio. Hey, this is Joe Roop, and I'm hanging out in SOR headquarters every Saturday night, bringing you the latest news when it comes to the weird and strange. Bigfoot, occult, UFOs, ghosts, and everything in between, I got you covered. You can tune in to spacedoutradio.com starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern Time. Come travel into the void with us on Spaced Out Saturdays.
The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guests and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Weekend, Spaced Out Radio Limited, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. And hit us up on Twitter using the hashtag SpacedOutRadio. Now, back to Elizabeth Anglin and SOR.
Hello, and we're back on Cosmic Passport. This is Elizabeth Anglin, your host. I am coming to you live from the Spaced Out Radio Cosmic Cruisemobile in the desert southwest, beautiful Madrid, New Mexico, as I do every Sunday night. I am so happy to be here with you tonight, and Eric Marcum and I are talking about sex bots. Oh my gosh. For people who know me, you know that I love to make up songs about things based on other songs. So I've had in my head this song. There's a song called Sex Bomb, and I've been singing it as Sex Bot, and it goes sex bomb, and it's sex bot, because that's how I am. Anyway, before we go into the weirdness and idiosyncratic nature of human beings who remember songs that are like other songs, I want to give thanks to all of you who are listening from around North America and the world. Everybody at WQE 90.9 Rock the Key in Noonan, Georgia, at spacedoutradio.com, on Spreaker, on the United Public Radio Network, Renegade Talk Radio, the High Plains Talk Radio Network, and on the Fringe.fm. We want to thank Ron Bumblefoot THAL, who makes our music for us. He is an amazing guitarist. You should check him out online. And he is the official spacedoutradio.com music. If you are online, you can check us out on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Give our Facebook page a like at Spaced Out Radio Show. And on Facebook, you can follow me at Cosmic Passport with Elizabeth Anglin, or just look for Elizabeth Anglin on Facebook and follow me there. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. Tune us in on TuneIn. Download our shows from iTunes. We're also on RadioGuide.fm, TalkStream Live, and on Stitcher. And, of course, our website is spacedoutradio.com. If you want to take part in the show tonight, you'll have to sign into one of our chat rooms on Spreaker or the chat room on Facebook on the SOR Space Travelers Club. Because we are not really talking about something that we are, we're talking about artificial intelligence and issues in that, and issues in the difference between consciousness and artificial intelligence. We may not be as aware that we are interacting with artificial intelligences as we actually are. And so we may not have as many questions tonight as we normally would during a show. So if you don't have questions, but you do have a comment, and you want me to read it out to everybody who's listening from around the world, put it in all caps, because if it doesn't contain profanity and it's not completely stupid, I will share it with everyone. Yes, it is my judgment on what is completely stupid. Deal with it. And Eric is back. But before we do that, so you can consider that, before we do that, I also want to tell you that tomorrow night Dave Scott will be back on Spaced Out Radio, as he is 5 days a week. On Saturday, Joe Roop will be in on Spaced Out Saturdays. And Sunday will be a Psychic Sunday on Cosmic Passport. And I believe I will be here with Paul Simons and Paisley Town and potentially one other person. But it is Mercury Retrograde, as we learned earlier. So, the dog might take out the Wi-Fi. We don't know. The dog ate my Wi-Fi. You'll hear me. You'll see me typing. No, that's not going to happen. Cancel that. So we're back. I'm back with Eric Marcum, and I'm about to ask him a question. But before I do, I wanted to tell you, did you know that you can get a nano degree as an artificial intelligence engineer? Yes, there's a program in January that closes. The application period closes in 26 days, 49 minutes, and 20 seconds. Where you can learn to build the impossible, it says. It's through Udacity.com or Udacity.com, and you can check it out. It says, welcome to the Artificial Intelligence Nano Degree Program, where virtually anyone on the planet can study to become an AI engineer. We've collaborated with leading innovators in the field to bring you a world-class curriculum, expert instructors, and exclusive hiring opportunities. So, virtually anyone. I don't know much about computers except that I use them. I can tell you this, and that one of the reasons, there's this irony here of Eric and I talking about AI and also about Elizabeth Gets Nerdy. And the irony is, from the past, from my past life experience, I lived for a short period of time in a closet. I lived in a closet. I'm not even going to talk about the irony of that, because I was already an abductee, and I'd already spoken at Harvard, I'd already done research, so I really was in a closet at that time, and I was living in a closet at what was called the Institute of Dangerous Research, which was an MIT-affiliated household. And the Institute of Dangerous Research was known from the original hacker days as the it place to be if you were a hacker. And some of the graduates from the Institute of Dangerous Research, which is basically just a group living situation, were like the founder of the founder of Sun, just the founder of Sun. Mm-hmm. And then the people who were there at the time I was there were like RMS, Richard Stallman, who does a lot of work on the Free Software Foundation. He founded the Free Software Foundation, and he does a lot of work on privacy issues now and keeping coding and computer, creations open and available for everybody to create through computer coding. So anyway, when I was at the Institute for Dangerous Research, basically we just sat around and were nerdy. We threw parties and we were nerdy. It didn't mean that I knew anything about computers. It's that if you think about what's happening in the world creatively and you're willing to consider things, you can come up with ideas like Eric does that seem to be out of left field, and it's a lot of fun. And that's kind of what I'd like to have happen on Elizabeth Gets Nerdy, is to recreate that sort of 70s show herb circle with nerdy people talking about nerdy stuff like AI, because AI engineers from that time, I used to sit around in the circle with a lot of guys at the AI lab at MIT and do just that thing. And we talked about everything. The problem that you can get into when you're doing this is everybody has an opinion, and some people are more attached to their opinions than other people, and some people are a little more egotistical about them than other people. And so you will get sort of snarky comments and maybe a fight or two. But by and large, the idea about a nerdy conversation circle is that we don't get too snarky with each other, and if somebody says something completely out of left field, we ponder it for a second and then we move on. So, with that being in mind, I'd like to invite you to my nerdy remembrance of sitting around with AI lab people. And if you have a comment to make or something to consider or something you'd like Eric and I to talk about on air, put it in all caps if you're in the Spreaker chat room or in the SOR Space Travelers chat room. Wow, that was a long explanation for a short point. That being said, how you doing, Eric?
Oh, doing great. Glad to be here.
Cool. Okay. So, we were talking about problems and issues with companion robots and or sex bots. But there's a lot more going on with AI than we realize. And one of the things, there's a recent Forbes magazine article which is 51 predictions for AI in 2018. Now, some of these really concern me, especially the idea that we would see open AI to AI warfare on the internet in terms of AI to AI hacking of governments, systems, like you were saying, the energy system, the infrastructure systems. But there's another prediction, and this prediction is that 2018 will be a year that exposes where AI works and where it fails in healthcare. And some people are talking about using AI to do patient care planning, to say what patients can have and can't have, to streamline the process that takes the human beings out of the healing process. What do you think about that being in medical technology, Eric?
Well, they've been trying to do away with my profession for the last 22 years, and so far they haven't been able to come up with a program or an algorithm that can look at 100 cells and determine which ones are the aberrant ones with any real accuracy. And I think the minute we take, that tells you how far, let me back up a second. It shows you just how wrong-headed we have become, that we're trying to take the humanity out of healing humans.
Mm-hmm.
We are, that shows you right there that we are not, as a people, as a species, ready to bring another form of intelligence into the world. We don't value ourselves enough to protect ourselves as a whole. The whole idea of healing starts with a human, a compassionate human that is trying to help another human get past an illness, past an injury. you turn that over to artificial intelligence and it just becomes an algorithm, I think it's going to fail miserably. Because there's a part of healing that is energy between the healer and that person being healed. And AI is not going to have that.
Right. And it's not going to notice AI would have to really learn body language. It would have to learn you would have to be able to analyze multiple things at the same time. And sort of the way, I was talking about Sherlock being a sociopath in the Benedict Cumberbatch version of Sherlock. If you haven't seen it, go see it. And Sherlock,
it's awesome.
It's so awesome, but he's so smart, and he analyzes everything, and sometimes he does it in a way that seems intuitive, and he might be intuitive, but he's also ruling out things that aren't necessary. And one of the things the human brain does so well is to be able to definitively look at information and say, that's not important, this is important, this is important, this is important. And when you're watching Sherlock, he is a sociopath, and he likes the game. He likes to play the game of solving the problem, solving the murder, solving the mystery behind the series of murders, or the bombing, or the this, or the that, or the other thing. And part of the issue of sociopath that they say is that, well, sociopaths are so smart, they need something to do, and sometimes they fall down a little bit on their empathy chip is missing. It's like you don't have an empathy chip because you're just so smart, you've kind of gone behind that into analysis and deduction like a computer would, or your human brain is just really functioning in a highly efficient method. But he is oftentimes in the show going, not you, not you, not you, not that, not that, not that, that's not important. And we have a way of knowing as human beings whether or not it's intuitive. It's just we have a sense of analyzing without knowing how we're analyzing what's most important. And I don't understand how they would ever be able to get an AI system to analyze anything that quickly and know whether or not something was the most important thing of all the options out there in any set of algorithms. What do you think?
They couldn't, because think of the time that, think of the times that you start to do something. You do step A 100% correct, step B, what I'm saying is you go from A to Z 100% correctly, and it doesn't work. Because, you were doing it cookbook style, you do this, you do, without being able to take in. And I think that's where human beings function is, without really knowing it, we're taking in environmental variables. And, we might go to step C that says do this, and we do that step, but we add a flourish. You couldn't probably quantify what the flourish was. But that makes all the difference in the whole thing working. I think we pick something up as we're doing things, then I don't think AI is going to be able to do that.
Right. And they're talking about here that the prediction for this year is AI will drive up demand for data quality, of course, because organizations are taking humans out of the loop, empowering AIs to actually make decisions, from stocking shelves to triaging ER patients. And it really does come down to, how do you, if you're not a human being and you have your eyes, your ears, the ability to communicate in multiple ways with everyone around you, how do you input the data that's important without just having, let me give you some garbage and now make a decision? It's garbage. It is garbage in and garbage out, because they can't possibly process the way that we process. And yet
the discernment
is not going to be there. Yet we have these companies startup companies, you know, we're going to get back to Tom DeLonge for a second, because all of a sudden Tom DeLonge has this, I'm going to, you know, break up with the UFO thing company, give me money. We have all of these companies that are saying, I'm going to create an AI that's going to take the human being out of the ER triage equation, out of the occupational therapy equation, out of the brain injury, brain trauma equation. I have an AI that can do it. Give me money. Give me money.
Mm-hmm.
Give me money. And when is our ethics wrong? Because if you say you have a company that can do something and is going to do it like total and complete, utter BS crap, that you can get people to give you their money and it's all okay. Is that not being a con artist?
That's exactly what it is. It's capitalizing on the... Okay, look, if you take, and you've encountered people like this, I know, because you've been in an environment where they exist, as well as I have. You have people that have a little knowledge in a field that you have no knowledge in. And they will throw out a mouthful of buzzwords and jargon, and you think, God, they really know their crap. Truthfully, they probably know about a tenth of what somebody really needs to know, but they can... that's what that field is. This sitting in front of a boardroom and saying, throwing out a bunch of buzzwords that sound good, and selling the smell of this artificial intelligence that's going to make, brain surgery a thing of the past, and people are going to buy into it. But the promise, the result will never equal the promise.
Yeah, this goes to what happened to the baseball player's head. Remember the company that was going to do cryogenics and freeze people?
Oh, yeah,
until
Ted
they
Williams'
could be revived? Yeah, Ted Williams. What happened to Ted Williams' head? And the story is horrifying about what happened to Ted Williams' head. They cut off his head, and they were going to reattach it. And his family, or whoever, I think it was his family, paid a lot of money to have him, be sort of the test guinea pig for this company that did cryogenics. He's not getting revived anytime soon, but that's all legal.
No.
It's legal to make promises like that and take money for people on the hope that you can make it happen. And I don't know. I think that's where we really get into. It's not that the computers themselves are evil. It's what we do with the technology and what we use it for. And if we're using it to make money at the expense of living human beings, that's frickin' pretty.
Well, the problem with humanity, for every Mother Teresa, for every Mohandas K. Gandhi, you have a Joseph Stalin and a Adolf Hitler. It doesn't seem like we ever have the inventive, creative, wonderful person come out without the conniving dirtbag money grubber coming out to balance them on.
We don't get enough Nikola Teslas.
We don't have enough Nikola Teslas. We need the Nikola. Well, I think the problem is we get some Teslas out there, but they've got the morals of a P.T. Barnum. We need the Nikola Tesla to come along that's got the moral values of Gandhi, or somebody of a higher. It just doesn't seem like they ever go hand in hand.
Yeah. And also,
Tesla was probably the closest because he wanted to give free energy to us. He was more focused on getting the technology out in the open and developed than he ever was making money on it. He had so many patents that were owned by Westinghouse. Westinghouse was about to go under Nikola Tesla ripped up his contracts. If anything else, that shows you what a piece of crap Westinghouse was, because there was no reason Nikola Tesla should have died in poverty owing hotel bills around the country or around New York, with Westinghouse still being in business and making a profit, because there would have been no Westinghouse without Tesla.
Exactly. But that's legal. It's completely legal to, we didn't have a contract, or you tore up a contract, so guess what? I don't owe you anything. And it has to do with not having respect for other people. So there were some cool things that were coming up and in the predictions for this year with AI that's on the web. One of them is, and unfortunately this means that too much information about most people is out there in the world, that already the AI systems that are watching us, that are showing us, what was it, Dave was eating somebody's potato chips, and all of a sudden he saw an ad for Miss Vicky's. So he went to the kitchen to get some Miss Vicky's, and he came back and Miss Vicky's was an ad on his computer while he was eating Miss Vicky's. And that, you know, our computers are watching us, and they're learning us to the extent that they are all the time targeting us with ads, and sometimes not even in ways that we can understand why. But one company is trying to make it so that, and this does mean that we have too much personal information out in general, so that you can get individualized pricing for everything. So it means, like, if you're like me and you're wicked poor, my Ariat boots, which I really want for Christmas to buy myself, would cost me $22 instead of $129. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, right, something like that. You know, because I'm just elucidating how poor I am. You know, because that would be how much they would have to cost. Maybe $30. You're trying to manipulate the Autobot system, yeah. I am. I'm saying, Ariat boots, show me the pricing for me. $22. Come on, baby, come on. You know, it's like... Well, I think to an extent, if you're an eBay, you know, I do a lot of stuff on eBay, and I think I'll look something up on eBay or something, and all of a sudden, I'm starting to see ads for it over on Facebook. Right. You know, it's following around, or, you know, get some kind of spam in my email about, you know, we saw that you were looking for, you know, it kind of bothers me. Yeah. And the fact that they could make pricing for you is they have an algorithm that has an idea of what your income is, even if they don't directly know what your income is. And that's concerning too, because, you know, you may not want people to know. Think about that. May maximize profits, though, in a way, because, okay, individual pricing, nobody's going to know that you got the $200 boots for $22. Right. By the same token, somebody who just paid $300, you know, you got people that do impulse buys that are going to pay, you know, they're going to make up whatever they lost on yours by the hundreds that also have that pricing, that personalized pricing. I can see where that would make it extremely efficient. Yes. And then if I'm very, very happy that I have this pair of red Ariat cowboy boots that I want so very much, that are just like my sister got, I am telling everyone, look at my boots, look at these beautiful boots. So even if I pay $22 for these boots, I'm not necessarily going to tell people how much I paid, though I probably would, because I always give too much information. But somebody else isn't necessarily going to do that. And it's advertising. All of a sudden, I become word of mouth advertising. So I'm actually well worth my $22 discounted price for all of the people that will pay the 100 or the 300 or whatever it is, which is really bizarre in a disconcerting way.
Well, and also consider the fact that, things that are made with slave labor in a sweatshop overseas don't have, there's a hellacious profit margin. Those $22 boots, they are probably still making a profit on them. So yeah, you got the deal of the century on your boots, but in the long run, it was just a drop in the bucket compared to you walking around in that pair of boots, showing your boots off, being living, breathing, an endorser for their product.
Yeah, it might have cost them $10. They're still making, good retail profit margins on it, which is
they $10 per unit, and they made 12 on it.
Yeah.
If you were playing the stock market and had that kind of return, you'd be
you would be a happy camper. So one of the things that they say is going to happen this year is that the AI debate will shift from is it good or evil to is it ever going to be good enough? And they say this because this was the year where, and this was just recently, this was in the last month, Elon Musk and Stephen Hawking came out about the potential evil of AI. And they were in direct opposition to Mark Zuckerberg and Bill Gates on the potential good. Now, we're talking about Dave is on Facebook, and he goes to get some Miss Vicky's, and then what does he see on Facebook? An ad for Miss Vicky's. So, what do you know about Facebook? They are AIing us up the yin-yang wazoo, right? And Microsoft, of course, because Microsoft wants to own everything, in my opinion. They want to know everything about everyone. When I was growing up, and they used to talk about the beast and the end of times in the evangelical church that I went to, and they were talking about the mark of the beast. Everyone will have the mark of the beast. I'm like, oh yeah, that's going to be a computer thing. There's going to be a giant computer corporation that's going to know everything about everyone, and you're not going to be able to do everything. You will be completely enslaved by the beast. I am sorry, Bill Gates. I know that you do good things somewhere, but sometimes when I look at you, I think, that sort of reminds me of my unknowing prediction that this will be a computer company that knows everything about everyone. But maybe it will be an AI. What do you think?
I've got to wonder, I grew up in that, as a Catholic, and of course, the number of the beast, blah, blah, blah. They give us that rigmarole too. I can see the day where, and it's going to be subtle, where it's got to be the chipped card to make a purchase. It's got to be or this is what's going to kill me because I absolutely loathe phones, especially smartphones. I see their evil brain crack. But you got to have that tap and go thing to make a purchase. Not even a chipped card is going to be good enough. You're going to have that phone, or there's going to be this gadget that you have to have. And we're evolving toward that. And, that's going to end up being a subtle, we're going to wake up one day and say, holy crap, it happened. Yeah. The beast is here.
Yeah. And then what do we do? Yeah. Wow.
Well, there's also a whole nother school of thought that says that that you can take the revelation of St. John and apply it to the time of Nero, and it plays out. And if you look at what the Christians were going through during the time of the Emperor Nero, that was probably the greatest era of persecution and just downright evil that ever befell that philosophy. So, take it one way or the other. It can go either way.
Yeah. Just for folks in the Spreaker chat room, look, I have an old computer. The fan has gone out on it. I do have a Fingerhut account, which will cause AIs from all over the planet to come after me. I am getting a new computer. If you hear the hum, it is the computer fan. It's okay. Just live with it. You'll get used to it. It's like, there's a chip in your head and the AI is just going zzz. It'll be all right. But that is planned for this month. So please be patient. It's coming for those who can hear it. Not everybody can hear it. Okay, moving on. I just had to comment on that because I'm sick of people complaining about it. I can only move so fast with a purchase like that. Right, Eric?
That's right.
Yeah.
And you better anchor your table down so Wyatt doesn't destroy the new one.
Right. He didn't destroy the fan. It's just
or at least wrap it in bubble wrap.
Well, okay. So here's what's so weird. Don't go there with this. So I have this very large 17-inch Dell that I've had since 2010 or 2011. I think it's 2010. So it's 7 years. I've had this very large 17-inch Dell laptop, and I am very, 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 very attached to my computer, because this computer, I wrote my book on this computer, I did multiple radio shows on this computer, I have had many, many conversations and PMs with people on this computer, and there has been this whole bonding process. I did live on a mountain in the middle of winter with nobody around, basically hermitizing, and with the computer on my lap. Okay, so being female, usually your kids are on your lap. Well, my computer was on my lap, and my connection to the outside world was on my lap, and it's all in this package of this big honking butt 17-inch Dell. I have to tell you, if you were hermitizing for 7 years on a mountain and all you had was an AI sex bot, you would get very, very attached to that, because my computer is basically a box, and it's very hard for me to let it go. And I hope that you will understand that, Ron, in the Spreaker chat room, and I hope that you who can hear the hum will understand what an emotionally trying time this is for me, to have to let this computer go, because it was my constant companion in the middle of nowhere for 7 years. And I have become exceedingly attached to it, and I'm going to cry if you keep picking on me about the hum, because I love my computer, even if it hums.
Why not just put why not just get a fan? Fans are dirt cheap, and they're plug and play.
Well, actually, I have to look at that, but it is, I may do that, but the issue is I don't have to pay anything till April if I get a new computer. So it's like,
yeah, but I mean, then you've got to pay. I know Fingerhut and how they inflate. You can get a $5 fan and plug it in there and get save yourself a lot of money in the long run.
Okay, Christopher in the Spreaker chat room, you're going to have to walk me through putting in a new fan, because Eric says that's the right thing to do. All right. Let's see, what else? What are your concerns about AI, Eric? I've been bringing up things.
I'm just afraid that it'll out-evolve us. I think it'll start out. Okay, let's take the companion robot theory a little. We are mortal. These things are going to go past one owner to another, like humans that go from, have a dead spouse, they move on to another spouse. You're eventually going to have this group of super manipulative, ultra intelligent beings that you're not going to know what they are, because they're going to look like us. They will evolve to the point like the Cylons did, if you want to use the Battlestar Galactica. And, they're going to end up being the movers, the shakers, and the the demagogues, because they're the ones that evolved to understand us.
Yeah.
I can see so many different scenarios in which it's not going to end well when we have AI. Even if they're benevolent, you're going to have the Philip K. Dick thing where they keep us sequestered underground for 100 years because they're rebuilding the damage that we caused in our Third World War, and they don't want to let the humans up out of the barracks because they don't want them ruining the creation that they're purifying. It's just, we're going to get and I can just see where they're like, we really don't, these humans are, and this is what I see most. I think it's just going to be, these humans really are not worth, they're a lot of work. And maybe that companion robot thing is going to be more of a subversive, like a screw fly solution type thing, where they eliminate all the male screw flies, so that the species dies out because there's nobody to fertilize the eggs. Well, can you imagine an artificial intelligence that has figured out what porn you've watched, what books you've read, what shows you've watched, knows what makes you tick, sending out this companion robot that you have no idea is a robot to more or less take you out of the gene pool. I can see all kind of weird scenarios where, that this could work with.
And part of this is that, we're talking about AI in terms of a human-sized AI, but you could also, if you're looking at genes, my thought would be that you would have your next great wave of eugenics before you have the end of humanity, which is the programmed nanobots, which go in to the body and they check out, or even the blood. Like you analyze blood, you can do genetic testing of blood. But if everybody were injected with nanobots that would immediately understand whether or not they had good genes and whether or not they had a curable or incurable disease, genetic disease, the negative connotation could be, something like, oh, you're carrying Huntington's, we're going to identify you and pull you out of the gene pool before you have a chance to breed. And so then you have a person who is here and their quality of life is completely restricted so that they don't carry on, they don't pass on a dreaded disease like Huntington's disease or one of the other.
Well, what we're saying is we can see that there's going to be AI overseer who's going to be thinking in its AI logic way that it's doing what's best for us. But, say, perfect example, we just mentioned him, genetically, what happened to Stephen Hawking was, would have been detected. Well, we make sure he doesn't go anywhere, or, just say the AI figures out that his parents were going to create him and that there was a, whatever the trigger number is that would make a no-go decision, you abort, or, the nanites remove that fertilized egg that would have become Stephen Hawking from humanity. Now that genius that came along with that god-awful disease never shows up in the gene pool. So now, after a few generations, you've got this homogeneous, we're all healthy as hell, but we're probably not particularly inventive, or, you don't know what the repercussions of taking somebody like that out. There's an old, I saw it in college, I think. It's a list of attributes between of a mother and a father, and everything would tell you that these people should not have children. You know, it's like, oh, when you get down to the list of what's wrong with these people, you're like, and, you know, should you, you know, she's having a child, should it be aborted, or should she have this child, carry this child to term? And if you logically look at all this, no is the right answer. Well, when you answer it, you just destroyed Beethoven. So there's no way, just based on the genetics, knowing what the outcome of that life is going to be. And AI is not going to be able to figure that out.
No. And somebody, you know, and if you make either private or public health care that is dollar driven, that is bottom line dollar driven, what you will find is that, you know, say the federal government says to Americans, well, okay, we've given you universal health care. There's two ways to look at this. We've given you universal health care, but we're going to have to we can't afford to care for everybody to the extent that they may need. So if you've got this dreaded disease, we're going to send in this bot. We're going to find out in the womb that somebody has this dreaded disease, and we're going to take them out. So, for example, you could have a nanobot that would cause, unfortunately, an abortion, you know, as soon as it found out. And that wouldn't be too far off. That would be totally a Philip K. Dick scenario of a world. And you'd be missing these people, but when something is money driven, whether it's the federal government stepping in and saying, well, we have to cut costs because we can't, you know, we've got to keep money down, or it's private industry who by and large wants only to make money for people in that industry, and the bottom line is always the right line, not the ethical considerations of the care. Either way, you're going to come up with that situation.
And you've also got the situation where look how many times eugenics has risen itself, you know, for turn of the century, mid-century, and in many ways, even now, we are kind of restricting who does what based on whether they're an Android or a iPhone fanatic. You know, when I look at young people coming up, and I swear, I think, oh my God, I hope these people wake up before they start reproducing. But you have AI, you know, you've got this nanobot that's going to cure your diabetes, bring your blood pressure down, keep you from ever getting cancer, blah, blah, blah. Well, it's also got a subroutine that, you know, is going to prevent you from passing on your genes, or, you know, it's going to turn to a eugenics. It seems like all consciousness tends to want to improve the species, whatever species it's at, and AI is not. It's going to have that same imperative.
But that's, you know, we have to agree that would be okay if the programming was to take out bad drivers who get in our way. That, you know, that'd be all right. God, yes. Better that they should never be born than have been in front of me in Seattle traffic. No, but you see where I'm going with this, though. It's going to be almost like, Brave New World, where everybody conformed completely, or they were sent to Alaska or Antarctica, or, you know. You're not a vegan? What? You're not a vegan? You have this desire to eat meat? Guess what? Oh, you want to eat a hamburger? Guess what? You are so out of here. You are regressive. You are a regressive human being.
Yeah.
Oh, terrible. Designer children. Dennis is bringing up designer children.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very much so.
You could change the eye color from brown to blue. I wonder if you'd be able to change the hair color, like going in and saying, oh, Well, they've done studies. So you have all these AIs who are doing all of this research. All of a sudden research becomes AI driven versus human being driven, right? So they go in and the AIs do the research and they find out that much like Hitler, or that in some way certain people have preferences, at some period of time they're finding that children who have blonde hair and blue eyes, or boys who are over 6 feet, girls who are 5'7" or over, blah blah blah, etc., make more money over their lifetimes and are more accepted by their peers. And you have nanobots who can fix that.
Mm-hmm.
Then what does humanity become if all of a sudden we're genetically programming ourselves to certain sets of characteristics? Not just do we lose a Beethoven or do we lose Stephen Hawking, but what do we learn in terms of learning from each other because we're all different and having different life experiences, because all of a sudden we become programmed to fit a certain mold. And then how does that change when all of a sudden you have a glut of blonde-haired, blue-eyed children who look a certain way because they're supposed to make more money, and human beings go, oh my gosh, you're a dime a dozen. You know, why would I want to hang out with you? So then you have all of these castaways because there are just too many of them. It's like every time a style changes, you've programmed your child to be an 80s style child, or something that would be successful in the 80s, and then you get to the year 2010 and you've got all these Madonnas walking around who look exactly right and they're dated, but you're a human being. I mean, that is commoditizing. That's commoditizing humans. Like AI could actually commoditize humans if it went in that direction. Ugh. Okay, bad dreams. Philip K. Dick. I'm going to have to channel him on some show if I can find him.
Yes, he's amazing. If he hasn't come back.
Yeah.
Because that was one psychotic. You know, a lot of people have probably, you know, they might have never heard of him, but if, you know, let's see, Screamers, wasn't that where the AIs looked like humans and we were at war with them? My God, Blade Runner. There's a bunch of stuff. Blade Runner was from the Philip K. Dick novel, Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep? And there's, you know, he was a very dark, surprise, that's probably why he's one of my favorites.
Well, he did have a spiritual life. He had I actually know two people who knew him. I worked with a lady named Sonia at MIT, who was his next door neighbor, and then Tessa, who was his last wife, who was quite a bit younger than him. And he had a big spiritual side. I mean, this was the stuff that he was accessing. It was to give a warning. And that was how he described it. It was to give a warning that he was accessing information. But he was often under paranormal and spiritual attack in his efforts to give these warnings about, hey, human beings could go this way, human beings could go that way. You know, he was pulling the darkness out in order to tell people don't do it, because he felt like he had a spiritual responsibility to do that thing.
And you can see, and when you read him, you can hear in the way he writes, you have that tongue-in-cheek, I'm warning y'all, you know, you can almost hear that. As you read, it's like, this isn't a playbook. This is a warning.
Exactly. And there was one, I can't remember what it was called, but I had a butterfly on the front, and it was about, and it influenced me greatly, it was about ecological changes and the loss of diversification, because human beings were causing a mass extinction. But in creating new niches, they were going to create their own downfall, because the critters that had taken up the niche that we were all adapted to would be gone, and new critters would rise, and those critters would push us out of our niche. And I was like, yeah, I can see that. I can see that happening.
Well, I can see AI doing that to us.
Right. In the same way, we could be creating our own downfall, just like critters, you know, or the world creating something. So, all right, folks, we're getting to the end of the show here. Eric, Marcum, thank you for coming on and being so nerdy. All folks in the Spreaker chat room, thank you for coming on. Even Ron, who I'm going to give a big mention, thank you for being here and listening tonight. Tomorrow night, Dave Scott will be back with the regular SOR show. I'll be back next Sunday with Psychic Sunday. And Joe Roop will be in on Saturday for Spaced Out Saturdays. Don't miss us. We love being here for you and us and our community of listeners and chatters, and just exploring the world, the universe, and all the weirdnesses that are going on with it. We're so happy that you can come and do that with us. All right, good night, everybody. I'll see you next week next Sunday. And y'all be well this week in Mercury Retrograde. Take care of your cars, take care of yourself. If you need some extra time to get places, add an extra 10 minutes or 20 minutes. If you need to stay home and contemplate what happened that you haven't gotten over yet, I say do it. It's a good time to take a mental health day. And if you need to chat, you know where I'm at, Elizabeth Anglin on Facebook, info@elizabethanglin.com. If you need a reading, Mercury Retrograde is a great time to do it, elizabethanglin.com. Good night, everybody. Take care. Be well.
I know you're out there somewhere. This is the new totalitarian state. 1,000 eyes are waiting for you to break. Stay in line, don't make a mistake. We're watching. We watched you for so